Hi, and welcome to the Thyroid Pharmacist Healing Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Isabella Wentz. Today, I'm joined by Mike Feldstein, who is the founder of Jaspr and an air quality expert. He's got a background in wildfire restoration, air quality consulting, and home remediation during some of the biggest natural disasters and wildfires. Mike started Jaspr to innovate in air science and technology. His goal is to protect air quality and improve human health using the latest air quality science. We're going to dive deep into air quality today with Mike. I'm so excited to have him here with us. Mike, it's so great to have you here. So I don't know if you know this, but you're actually the reason why I was able to start a podcast.
What?
Yeah, I have a beautiful 7-year-old son, and every time I've tried to start doing more things, getting more out there, he would be going to preschool and then he'd get sick. And then I'd be like, okay, I have to scale back. I can't really do much work these days because I have to take care of my son. Last year, you gifted an air purifier, the Jaspr, to my son's class, first grade class, and he didn't get sick the whole year.
Damn.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not surprised. The same thing happened with my kid. That's why we do this now.
And this is a little special card that the class made for you, the little first graders. So thank you so much for all the work that you're doing to bring clean air to the world.
Thank you. This is a nice card. I will keep it. And I hopefully we will create a wall with all of the schools that we help. We want to give as many schools clean air as possible. And a thank you card is all the payment we would have. This is the perfect kind of payment.
Yeah. The kids worked really hard. They love their air purifier, and it honestly has made such a big difference in so many people's lives. I feel like people don't really appreciate the impact that clean air has on their health. You got into this around COVID time, where you were starting to work with dental offices, right? Because you wanted them to feel free. You wanted them to be able to work on people's teeth without worrying about viruses and different infections in the air. Is that right? Was that your founding story?
No, it was the beginning of that was our launch story. That's who we did open up for business to first. But Jaspr was born because of my work restoring homes after floods and fires. So originally I only designed Jaspr to be an air purifier for wildfire smoke. That was the original vision. I'd go into these really, California after wildfire. We do all remediation, but like the smoke was a problem all the time, even when the fire wasn't there. So people's homes are constantly being contaminated all the time. And we would use these big machines called air scrubbers. When you compare those to little air purifiers at Best Buy, Home Depot, Walmart, they don't work. So the vision was, as a flood fire mold guy, how do we create an air scrubber that is beautiful and quiet that people would actually put into their homes? So that was the whole vision, was instead of me living in wildfire zones for 6 months and restoring and cleaning up homes, what if we could just bring commercial air scrubbers to the areas impacted by wildfire smoke? We were going to launch. So I spent between 2016 and 2020 developing Jaspr, and we were getting ready to launch summer of 2020 for wildfire season. And then COVID happened first. And I was living in Canada in the time, in Ontario, and they mandated that every dentist needed to put an air purifier in every single one of their rooms in order to open their doors for business. And based on the amount of air that they could clean would determine how many minutes between patients. So if they just bought like a regular air purifier off the shelf, it would be like an hour between patients or more. If they had a Jaspr, it would be like 8 or 9 minutes. So from the dentist perspective, it would pay for itself in 1 or 2 days. So it was a need, not a want. And I never intended to get into medical. Just during COVID, doctors and dentists were the ones who needed them most. And then the patients, they would rave about Jaspr to the patients. And then all of a sudden, patient mom with an asthmatic child, she's like, hey, do they sell these things for the home? Dentist was like, I don't know. Ask Jaspr. And we had no e-commerce. The only way you could buy a Jaspr for the first 2 years was to go to our website and request a consultation and talk to me for like an hour about your situation. And then we would like send people an invoice and ship it to them. So you couldn't even buy them online. And then I'm like, wow, when a dentist or doctor buys a Jaspr, it's very much like, thanks for keeping my patients safe and like helping us with our business. When a family would buy it, it's like, my kid's not having asthma attacks anymore. I'm not snoring anymore. Our allergies are gone. My sleep score on my Aura or my Whoop is up 30%. And I'm like, okay, this feels great. Because the goal was always to create it for people in the most dire needs, like wildfire. COVID was an unintended side quest that kind of got us into market. But yeah, and now it's basically now we're 99% families, sleep, and schools and stuff like that.
It's interesting because I've been a very health conscious person and working to get my Hashimoto's into remission. I did so much cleanup of my home. So I ended up switching from plastics to all glass and I got a water filter. But I kind of, had this like dinky little air purifier in my house. I didn't even think about changing the filter. And we ended up actually having mold in our house. And I didn't really fully appreciate the impact that our air can have on our health. Like, what are some of the ways that you see air quality impact people?
Well, it's funny because like we talk about air quality. It's almost like air quality and mold are two separate issues. People are putting mold in one category and air quality in another. And they usually think about mold as the visible black stuff behind the shower or under the sink or wherever there was a leak. But everybody's home has mold in it. There's also mold outside. Mold is omnipresent. That's why when you do a mold test in a home, you test inside and outside to see what the difference is that day. But mold is everywhere, and the mold is impacting you because you're breathing it in. If it was just behind the drywall, isolated to the surface, it wouldn't impact you. It's because you're breathing it. So like whether you're talking about VOCs or same thing with allergies, people talk about, I have horrible pollen allergies. What are you really saying? The air that you're breathing is contaminated with too much pollen. The air you're breathing is contaminated with too much mold or bacteria or viruses. So air is the medium in which other things impact you. So it's not necessarily that air impacts people. It's that it is the vessel of transmission in which so much can impact you. So, and I hope that we take care of, we build better homes and we as humans realize how important and finite air is before we're forced to. Because if anybody goes to Bangkok or Mexico City or Beijing or Delhi in India, there's a lot of parts of the world where as soon as you land, you can't really breathe. You can't really see the sky. There's no more optionality. They let their air get so bad that it's right in your face and you feel it and your lungs burn. Here we only have that experience after wildfires and stuff, but the air quality is right now getting a lot worse, especially indoor air. And I'll say that the reason that mold is not a problem outside is outside we have the sun and the wind and the rain and the trees, and nature is the greatest filter of all time. It takes care of all of that stuff. It takes care of filtering our air and our water and everything to a certain extent. But our homes trap everything inside and block nature out entirely. So if you think about a free-flowing stream or river of like clean water versus a stagnant pond that has an algae bloom and is growing bacteria and it's gross, you wouldn't want to go in that still pond. Outside, when you feel the wind, that's like the free-flowing fresh river, and your home is very stagnant. So most people's homes are built like those still ponds, which are just breeding grounds for everything. So it's the air problem is largely, yes, we pollute too much. Yes, we cut too many trees down, but it's largely stemming from what we use to build our homes and how airtight they are. That's giving us a big problem, trapping ourselves inside all day.
It's been really interesting. So, in my journey as the thyroid pharmacist, I started working initially on my own health and trying to get myself into remission. And then I started working with other people with Hashimoto's. And there was a subset of them that had multiple chemical
Mm.
sensitivities. And these individuals, they are really, really sick and they're really struggling with um, seemingly benign things. Like they can't tolerate fragrances, they can't walk past. Um, different aisles at stores because some of the the products might be off-gassing. And I learned a bit about sick building syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And what's been really interesting to me is that a lot of these modern day buildings, they're actually predisposed to making us sicker. Can you
Oh, yeah.
talk about some of that?
Yeah, so a lot of this started since the 1970s when there was like the energy crisis, and they started changing building codes to make buildings as tight as possible. The goal was, if we can keep the cool in the summer and the warm air in the winter, we'll save money on our energy bill.
Energy efficient homes, is that right?
Energy efficiency. And then they moved to LEED certified, became this global standard of what a good building was, but it was all about energy efficiency. So we were completely optimizing for cost and completely ignoring the cost of sick people. Like, what was the original purpose of the building? It wasn't to be these large empty buildings. It was supposed to be an environment for humans to live and thrive and work and sleep and play, be productive, build companies, solve problems. Problem is, when that building is now incredibly toxic, everything suffers. So the difference between us, if you look at the data, the difference between a sick building and a healthy building, it could be 30% or more in absentee rates. When you look at chess players or SAT scores, there's infinite amount of air quality studies like this, where when they have different levels of air quality, chess players' moves get worse. SAT scores go down. Absentee rates get worse as well. So you have sicker people, you have absent people, you have brain fog like crazy. Think about it. When you go to bed at night for 8 hours or so, you're not eating, you're not drinking, it's a dark room. What is keeping you alive? Only air. Air is so important. It's the first thing you do when you're born. It's the last thing you do when you die. You do it all night long when you sleep and still pay no attention to it. So we really take air for granted. And the difference between a healthy building and a sick building is a combination of a few things. I think air is the most important by far, but there are other important factors as well, like the lighting. Now it's kind of branching into EMF and other stuff too, and the water. Water is pretty controllable because you could have a water bottle. You can filter your water very easily. But air, lighting, noise, materials really impact the way people feel in buildings. So now there's just the beginning of a shift to maybe say, hey, maybe we should build a home to be healthy for people. And people are willing to pay a premium for a better environment. But yeah, it really started from an energy thing. And no one realized, how do we get more energy efficient? We make it tight. Let's trap all the chemicals, all the mold, each other's sicknesses inside. What could go wrong? And now we're kind of being like, maybe there's a happy medium here.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that mold, various chemical toxins, various infections, they're all triggers and exacerbating factors for autoimmunity. And typically I used to think of pollution outside of the house,
Right.
but your house was always your safe space. And this is where you retreat. If the air quality outside is not great, then you stay inside. And that was always okay, if there's pollen on the trees, you stay inside. But for a lot of people, and I think during the pandemic especially, they started noticing they were spending more time at home and they were actually getting sicker. They weren't even exposed to outdoor germs or outdoor air as much because of all the restrictions. What are some of the chemicals and toxins and things that we need to think about that might be present in our homes?
Growing up in Canada, I think that the reason that people were so much more sick in the winter was because of how much more time we spent inside. We went from 95% indoors to 99.9. And I think that's why people were getting sick. And no sun also. So you have no sun, you have no fresh air. So what's in a home? Well, think about what a home is and the way a home is manufactured and built. Most people live in a condo or an apartment or a subdivision, master plan, community built home type of situation. So the way that those are built is, developers look at 100 acres, 200 acres, and they go, okay, how many acres are there? How many homes can we build? How many square feet? How fast? How cheap? That's the equation. They typically aren't going around saying, how do we improve human health through building and design and development? And the incentives are wrong on every level. So typically they're borrowing money from the bank to build the home. Well, the more months that go by, the more your interest goes up. So the incentives are to build very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then most people, think about it, you get a home inspection. The biggest purchase you're ever going to make in your life is typically your home, and you get a home inspection. What is that home inspection typically looking for? First of all, I became a certified home inspector just to see what the training and the standard was. It took me 5 days to get certified. It was an online course. And if you look at almost any home inspecting contract, it says we're not responsible for the roof, and we're not responsible for anything environmental.
They miss a lot of things, don't they?
Of course, because what people are paying them to look for isn't to protect your health. It's to look for a hidden cost. So, is my water heater old? Is there a crack in the foundation? Is there some plugs not working that are going to need to be fixed? How about the lights? How about a heaving or a bowing floor that's uneven? So they're looking through the lens of how much is it going to cost you to repair this structure. They're not going in and giving the home a health score and saying how healthy is this home for you and your family to move into. So people are thinking about this home as this investment, this place to raise their family, and no, it needs to be a top-down and bottom-up effort, but there's very little emphasis put on like, what's the health of this thing? And I think it needs to start from there, where the consumer needs to say, no way I'm buying a subdivision home. Because if people stop buying them, they'll stop building them. It's a simple supply and demand thing. So we need builders and architects and developers to want to build more healthy homes, and people also need to demand it. It needs to work both ways. So in your home, basically every material was manufactured, usually in China. And when they make your floorboards, your walls, your lighting, your furniture for that matter, they manufacture it. And as soon as they're done, they basically shrink wrap it, put it on a boat, it goes to a warehouse, and then it's in your home. So the off-gassing happens in your home. That's why when people bring like couches home often, we'll get message like, hey, I just brought a new couch home on a bed and my Jaspr's going crazy. What's going on? I'm like, it's because your thing is off-gassing a lot. You just brought this toxic bomb into your home. So it's all the building materials themselves, the insulation, the drywalls, the paints. Nothing about that is natural at all. Then you have cooking. Then you have all your cleaning products. Then you have all your personal care products. Then you have all the pollen from outside came inside and settles inside. You have all the mold. So if you think about the Tupperware growing mold on the sandwich, on the piece of bread, that happens when the lid is closed. If the lid is open, the mold does not grow because it's not breathing. So you have a home that's made from toxic materials that also doesn't breathe. And if your home isn't breathing, how is the person in the home supposed to breathe?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I recently saw an article about somewhere in the Scandinavian countries, they found that women who regularly cleaned their homes with cleaning products, a lot of times they're toxic, ended up having lung disease and asthma and all kinds of issues that you would expect more or less to come from a smoker, right? A lot of us know that we're not supposed to smoke. It's not good for us. And we don't smoke inside of our homes. But sometimes it's like those cleaning products.
We shouldn't fragrance either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fragrance is the new smoking.
I have seen that so many times where people do those Glade plugins.
Oh, no.
Or just like artificial fragrance inside of their homes. And they don't realize all of that is like really building up in their system. So whether it's cleaning products, and I'm a big proponent of like using vinegar and maybe some branch basics and doing things that are a little bit cleaner so that we're not breathing that in. But I think that's one part of it, is trying to minimize the exposures that we have. But I mean, if you're living in a new house, like what can you actually do? Because you've got new furniture, right? You've got new building materials, and every now and then you might need to like bleach something, right? What do you do? How do you get rid of all of that chemical toxicity that builds up?
So I'll start telling anybody out there who's going to buy a home, when you go to buy a home, you should, even like if you go in for the inspection and you smell any air fresheners, I would immediately unplug them, all of them, take them out of the house, air the house out for a little bit, then close it back up and redo the inspection. Because the way that 99% of the time, what air fresheners really mean is they're hiding mold.
Interesting.
Almost every time I see air fresheners in a home that's for sale and I unplug them, we find the mold shortly after. Instead of dealing with the source. So the way those air fresheners work is not by giving you a nice smell. It's by hijacking your ability to smell. So there's a lot of chemicals in those fragrances that make you unable to smell anything else but that. So you won't smell mold or garbage or anything. So if there's air fresheners, don't people buy an expensive home, they go in, it smells clean.
Smells so nice,
It's
right?
so great. And then, when you start drinking filtered water and breathing filtered air, you start being very unable to tolerate fragrances. What can people do? We still use bleach. Some of it is necessary.
Toilets.
Yeah, not a lot of bleach. Turn the bath just the way that you like use the bathroom. If you're bleaching a bathroom, good protocol would be closing the door when you're done and leaving that bathroom fan on for the rest of the day. So while that bleach is off-gassing, it's being vented outside your home. If you're bleaching a more central area of the home, open a bunch of windows. Like fresh air is the key to almost all of this. Scrubbing air helps, but like ventilation and just getting it out of the home is even better.
Okay, so I have a question for you.
Sure.
You grew up in Canada. I grew
did.
up in Chicago and Poland. And
Cold places.
Cold places. And we had a habit of opening up our doors and windows. I would say, if not daily, we would do it on a weekly basis. I moved here in August of 2022 to Austin, Texas. And for anybody that doesn't know Austin, Texas, it's like 100 degrees 5 to 6 months out of the year. And I called my mother-in-law and I was like, how do I air out the house? So what do you do when
What'd she say?
She said, you don't. She's like, you just have to wait until the winter. What's your take on that? What would you recommend for people living in like really hot climates?
Here, yeah. So, I mean, it's 100 in the day and it's still 82 at night. So typically we open our doors in the morning still before breakfast, 6:30, 7 in the morning. We still leave them open for 10, 15 minutes every day, like when breakfast is cooking. It's so, it's very easy to grow up being like, don't ever have the AC or the heat on and have windows open. You're like wasting money or wasting energy. If we're doing this for a few minutes a day, we're talking about pennies a day. Like
Worth it.
Worth it. The downside is suffocating yourself. And it's like and you know what's really cool? When you go, I mean, you travel quite a bit. When you come home and your house smells when you come back. Like it just has that like stuck effect. And it's interesting because even if you leave your vents on a little bit or your Jaspr's running, it still can get a little bit of that stuck effect. Why? We forget how much us as humans are a part of the airflow cycle because we're breathing. We're opening doors multiple times a day, coming in and out. We're breathing in the home. We're sitting on couches. We're walking across the floor. Like we are, just think about water, moving your hand through it. You're moving the water around. If it's not stuck, it's cleaner when it's moving. So is the air in your home. So by living in the home and being there, you're actually partially you're contributing to polluting by the way you live, but you're also moving the air a lot more. So yeah, I would say either A, open it up anyway, or like leave a bathroom fan on all the time. Just actively venting. There is something people can get called an ERV or an HRV. Basically, it works like a fresh air intake, but in an energy efficient way. In Canada, most provinces have this code now. You can't build a home without one. Texas building codes are ancient and they are horrible. And most attics we see in Texas, there is a lot of mold because you have that hot attic and your HVAC is in the attic. So you have your cold ductwork flowing through and it's not a conditioned attic. So your attic is 110 degrees.
Always.
There's 78 degree or 75 degree air flowing through it, 100 degrees and 75 degrees, condensation, drip, 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 moldy attic. Then you have mold in your HVAC system. Now we have a problem. And that's like everybody. You should not be able to have an unconditioned HVAC space, which is our attic. So the building codes here have like a long way to go. So the next phase of Jaspr and our vocal getting the word out there is going to be going to more builder conferences, architectural conferences, developer conferences, And just as much as right now we're trying to educate people from the bottom up about making better choices, doing the same thing on the builder level. Because like when real estate prices over the last couple of years dropped a lot, healthy home prices haven't dropped at all. All the healthy home builders, which there are not a lot of, there are a lot of people who have money and not a lot of time, and they value their lifespan more than their wallet, and they're willing to spend 30% more on a home to make it a super healthy home, a clean air sanctuary, use good materials, good air filtration, good water, good lighting, good acoustics. The healthy home builders are thriving. So when they realize it's a good business decision for them, I love when you can align incentives. So when a builder who's very skilled but not aware and they're building crappy homes, people really value curb appeal and pretty bathrooms and pretty kitchens, and they put no value on the environmental health. So I think when the environmental health becomes part of the equation of the buyer, I think this whole thing's going to work itself out.
Yeah, it makes sense if that's incentivized because right now, like you said, the incentives are get it done quick and make it look pretty. And sometimes it's like you've got these gorgeous bathrooms and the gorgeous kitchen, and then you look around and it's like they put it up so quickly. It's like the when the wolf came to blow the house down, right?
Yeah.
Like if something were to happen, the house is just like not sturdy, not stable. Probably, I had one person who had this beautiful home being built and it rained in the middle of the building process and they didn't have the roof on the homes yet, right?
Wow. Yep.
And so
Happens all the time.
yeah. And they didn't properly dry anything out. And they had to remediate the home because of obviously water damage that occurred because the roof wasn't up yet. And so you see a lot of these things where these homes are going up so quickly. Maybe there's materials shortage, maybe there's labor shortage. Not a lot of incentives to follow the rules. Sometimes there are codes that have been established, right? But maybe the builders or their team take shortcuts. And so they don't follow those codes, or even custom homes might have some issues that were not quite vetted from a safety standpoint. You talk about the HVAC systems being the lungs of your home. Can you tell us more about what that means?
Yeah, totally. Your HVAC system, when I say that, HVAC or HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. So when we say HVAC, what we're referring to is basically your furnace and your air conditioner. It's the stuff that heats and cools your home and lets your home breathe. More often than not, they design a home, even if you're building a custom home, they look at the square footage, they look at the floor plan, they mock up your bedrooms and your kitchen, they do the layout, and they do a 2-dimensional floor plan of like how you're going to live. And then at the end of it, they go, and then let's run the ductwork. Instead of doing that, all has one collaborative cycle saying, hey, here's the home, here's the angles of the sun. What is the most effective way to have this home breathing properly? Like, who really cares if your bedroom is on this angle or that angle? You can figure all that out. But in tandem, you should be thinking about how the home is breathing. Is the fresh air intake going on the side of the home where you have a neighbor who has a dryer vent pumping their bounce sheets out, which is going right into your intake? Or is your intake on the side of the home where a neighbor is barbecuing or where you're barbecuing? So there's think about where you're breathing in and breathing out. And if you have that lens, it doesn't necessarily cost more money to be thoughtful. It just takes thought and patience to be thoughtful. So yeah, if your home is not designed to breathe, then everything is going to compound inside. The allergens, whether it's allergens, wildfire smoke, mold, VOCs, all of it. And it's very easy to build a healthy home for a few $1,000s more. So maybe $1 million home is going to be like $1,005,000, $1,010,000. We're talking about a 1% difference in price to have your air and your water. And it's just conscious material choices and things like that. Yeah, that's why I'm very optimistic, because it's not a prohibitively expensive investment here. People are spending more money on their fancy supplements every month, hundreds of dollars a month often, for many, many years. And often, I just think humans are really bad at allocating capital. So people have $1 million home and then $1,000 bed. Huh? What's the primary function of your home? Isn't it supposed to be like a healthy, clean, safe place for you and your family to rest? Maybe sleep, eat, hang out together? So like maybe get the home that's like 950,000 instead of $1 million, and get like $10,000 beds that are amazing for your spine and your back and your neck, and make sure there's no annoying bright lights, and soundproof your bedrooms. Like make your bedroom sleep sanctuaries. For all the money that goes into your home, if it can't even give you a sleep sanctuary, what is the point of this thing? So I think just like really coming back to first principles with community and with home, and thinking about what's first principles of what's actually important about this thing. A lot of home designs have so much wasted space and weird layouts and extra rooms and 5 bathrooms. It's like maybe for the 3 of you, like maybe 3 bathrooms would be good, and spend that extra 50 grand on great lighting and great air and great water for you guys to live off of. So yeah, HVAC, lung of your homes. And it's the whole idea of the way the system works to support the person, instead of just being like this object that you buy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because most architects and builders, HVAC people, they're not necessarily trained in air quality. And I think for a person that can afford to buy a brand new home, they can actually look for people who know what they're doing, right? With that regard. But how do you find them? Like what would be your approach if there was somebody that was listening and they were maybe like, okay, I'm on the market, I want to build a new home, I want to do this right, or I'm ready to buy a new home. Like how do I find the people that know what they're doing?
They're called healthy home builders.
Yeah.
If you type in healthy home builder, there's a group called the Building Biology Institute that I recently joined. They got a whole bunch of good professionals. And even if the cool thing is, like, even if the home doesn't have all the systems in it directly, for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, you can get a whole home water filtration system. For $3,000, you could have 4 Jaspers. Lighting, you can change all the light bulbs in your house for under $2,000. So even if the home isn't dialed in entirely, taking care of your air and your water and your lighting, it's something you can also do after the fact relatively easily. So I think it's really more about the awareness. If you're building a custom home, great, find a healthy home builder. But to like fix those few things after the fact, it's not breaking the bank.
And that's great news for some people that maybe are living in an apartment, or maybe they are renting a space.
You can take it with you. Even a countertop, like those shower filters, those chlorine shower filters, pretty great. They do a good job. So if you have point of use filtration for your water, or a countertop reverse osmosis, and you put some electrolytes in it with a shower filter, you're talking $150 for a shower filter, $300 for a countertop water filter. And even if you put 1 Jaspr in your bedroom, you're like a little over $1,000 all in. And now you're drinking clean water, you're showering in clean water, and you're sleeping in clean air. That's like the 80-20 is dial in your water and dial in your sleep environment. And like, even if someone can't afford to dial in their whole home, I think turning your bedroom into a sleep sanctuary, if you just optimize sleep, everything else takes care of itself, and it makes you make all the other good decisions easily. Because it's like, yeah, caffeine in the afternoon, not going to, like, just if you view everything through the lens of will it support sleep or not, I just think clean air, less mold, less pollen, less bacteria, good for sleep. Comfortable bed, great. Quiet, maybe use some white noise or pink noise. Block out the lights. If you're sleeping better, everything else gets easier.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people have sleep issues because of mold and histamine
Like, just take
issues.
magnesium, it's fine, or Ambien or Valium, that will fix you.
I love magnesium. I love all the things, but it's like you're spending 10 to 12 hours, 8 hours, 6 hours if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a mom, right? But you're spending so much time in your bedroom and just getting
Your
some
baby's
clean
sleeping like
air.
18 hours a day in that room, and they have all the same environmental problems as your
They're
bedroom.
tiny. So all of the environmental issues, they're going to be, really impacted with a tiny, tiny human versus an adult. So it's like a dose related response, right?
Something I'm really expecting to see changed. So about 25 or 30 years ago, dentists didn't wear masks or gloves. So finger directly in the mouth. That seemed normal at the time.
Then they all got herpes on their fingers, right?
That I didn't know. Did they really?
It's more common to have that infection in dentists.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to remember that one. But now that seems wild. Like now, if you go to pretty much any office or home, it's pretty unlikely nowadays that if you go to an office or a bathroom, or sorry, like a public place, they have water fountains. If you go to an office, they usually have either a nice tap or a Culligan or bottled water. If you go to someone's home, it's not that likely that they're just giving you straight tap water anymore. Like over the last 10, you're likely not drinking directly from the hose. Like the water awareness is like 10 or 20 years ahead of air. I think we're going to look back on these days and think anyone who wasn't scrubbing their air in their home or scrubbing their air in the office, I think it's going to be surprising that we used to do things that way. When I went to I can't remember how, last year, probably the most recent time, I went to a functional medicine doctor here and they gave me these intake forms. So fill out these 9 pages of forms, page. The dentist too, even the massage therapist.
Oh yeah.
They want me to fill out like a multiple choice, like a Q&A form that's like 6 pages long. And it's asking if like my paternal grandmother had this infection and if like I'm pregnant. And, they're asking hundreds of very abstract questions to then sit down and talk to me about it. And they didn't ask me about my water or my air or my food. The functional medicine doctor did ask me a bit about my diet, but they asked me nothing about my air. And I'm like, we're now on the side where we're getting 50 reviews a week of people whose autoimmune, inflammation, allergies, snoring, sleep, cough attacks, like everything. It's like if you start going from eating horrible food to great food, big difference. If you go from drinking tap water to like really good spring water, huge difference. And air is the thing that we do 15 to 20,000 times a day. So that's why I think this is like a multifactorial approach. So many people in my life with sleep issues, I gift them a Jaspr. Ari, my daughter, same thing. She was getting sick all the time at school. Put a Jaspr in the class, doesn't get sick anymore. Study out of Finland, they put air purifiers in classrooms, 30% decrease in absenteeism.
It's been incredible. I mean, we were
almost
getting
too
sick
easy.
every other week. And the times where our son got sick, I actually brought it home this last year.
What home?
Illness. So
okay.
I was out somewhere and he ended up getting sick from me. So I would catch things first, but there was nothing from his school, which was unheard of. If you're a parent of young children, it's like, okay, this is going to be.
They tell you it's normal too.
Flu season, right?
They were telling me that it's normal. They're like, your kid will be sick. I'm reading online, talking to a doctor. They're like, yeah, between 2 and 5, 2 and 6, get constantly infection, runny nose, cough. It's normal. I'm like, how could this be normal? Because the previous 6 months before that, we were traveling, we were on planes, we were in hotels, we weren't hiding in bubble wrap, and she was fine. But now that she's in school, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, with windows that don't open, with Glade plugins, with harsh chemicals, with bad cleaning protocols, and no air filtration, I'm like, this is insane. And I'm going there and I'm feeling the particulate in the VOCs and the dust and the horrible lighting, and they're only outside 15 minutes a day. Duh, of course they're sick all the time. And to me, it's just absurd. It's like shocking still that one machine cleaning the air in the class makes all these kids way less sick, and their parents and their colleagues. Like the true cost of a sick child is unmeasurable. And like, what is it going to take for it to be a standard question? And you said it, like when the HVAC and the home builders aren't air aware, the same way doctors aren't trained on nutrition. The HVAC/air guys aren't trained on air. They don't realize that their job is managing the lungs of people's homes. They just think about heating and cooling. They call it home comfort, not home health. So I don't think it's going to take that much of an effort. I think a few leading naturopaths starting to talk about what they're speaking on stages at events and pushing the ball forward a little bit. And that should be a standard triage question, because we did a sleep study a year ago. We're doing another one now. 150 people, Oura rings, Jaspers. The average person slept 25 more minutes per night and 18% deeper sleep. Well, yeah, you stop breathing mold and pollen and VOCs and dust all night long. It made a big difference. Now you went from playing defense all night long to turning your bedroom into a clean air sanctuary where you could actually heal and rest and recover. So I don't know exactly how fast, but I'm going to stay focused on this air problem for as long as I need to, because it just seems fairly obvious that if you're meeting a doctor or any health professional, that triaging them for the air they're breathing in their bedrooms should be one of the first questions you ask. And somehow it's not even on the list.
It's really interesting you bring that up because I went to this wonderful clinic and I got there and they're having like these scented
Like, what
candles.
makes it wonderful?
It was just an integrative clinic and they were offering a lot of great services to people, but they had scented candles and they had all of these like air, like just a lot of scents there. And I got there and I was like, you guys, do you know that you have mold in this building? And all of you are doing, such amazing work, but you have sick clients coming in and you yourselves are at risk for getting sick from this. And they were covering up the scents with mold and they were like, we didn't even realize that. And they reached out to their landlord and they had the place fixed and remediated. But to your point about people just being, they are such beautiful healers and they know so much about healing and doing so many great things to help others, but yet they were missing this little component that they didn't even
Little
pay
huge
attention to.
component.
Little huge component that was potentially making the clinic staff sick and all of the people that were seeking their help, they were coming in there and like getting exposed.
Have you ever
So
been to Alive and Well?
I have been to Alive and Well, yes.
So I go there. I get my Sun Life smoothies near there,
Yeah,
and
love it.
great management, beautiful space, great services, well designed. I always got my air quality, put my particle counter with me. I'm like, guys, the air in here is horrible. So people are coming to heal. More importantly, your staff are here 8 hours a day. This
Yes.
air is unacceptably terrible. Like, I can't recommend someone to come here based on this situation. So anyway, the same thing we did with the school. We put 18 Jaspers in that place and we measured the air before and after, and the air is 20 times cleaner.
Wow.
Now, when you walk in, it is noticeable, like shockingly noticeable. And a lot of the team, we've been getting these amazing messages from the team about how much better they're feeling at the workspace and the morale and the culture and the patients. And then you walk in and it's very obvious. And the cool thing is now a lot of the patients are investing in Jaspers for their home. So, but it's just amazing. Like, now they're going to have more Jaspers in the space and everything else. They even had the Alive water. Like, it wasn't a budgetary issue. They're spending thousands of dollars a month on filtered water, but they didn't realize they didn't realize the extent of the air issue
Right.
or how easy it was to fix. And in 90 minutes, they made their air 20 times or 95% cleaner. And now there's no cedar, there's no pollen, there's no allergens, there's no mold. And people go there when they're sick. So they're doing sauna and ozone and then IV. So when people are at their peak detox, they're off gassing. The nurses are getting sick all the time in the little IV drip drop lounge. So now we have 2 Jaspers in that room scrubbing on like a medium speed at all times. So it was, as a guest of that business, even when you go for a massage, when I go get a massage, I always bring my Jaspr with me.
Smart.
Because if you don't, you're in a 10 by 10 room. And you are basically making out with the therapist and the last 3 people who are there. Because if they're not changing and scrubbing the air, you're breathing everybody's air. So all it took was the person who got a massage an hour before you to have a kid in their child had a kid in their class that was sick. And now you got sick because you're in this small environment. And a question I loved asking to dentists when we used to sell to dentists, I go, hey, do you wash your hands in between patients? Yeah. Do you clean your equipment? Yeah. Do you scrub the surfaces? Yeah. Do you scrub the air? And at the same time, cut to scene of all of the bioaerosols being shot out of their mouth has the water tools like blasting under your gums and the air is being filled. And they're like, no. And once they had that moment of awareness, and dentists have some of the most toxic environments of all, dentists and hygienists are 2 of the top. Department of Labor, Department of Defense has dentists and hygienists as 2 of the top most dangerous jobs in America. More than like nuclear workers, policemen, firefighters, like coal miners, because they're literally blasting into people's mouths all day long. The air quality, when we measure for like bacteria and viruses, even in the lobby of a dental office, it's off the chain. I will never go to a dentist that's not scrubbing the air in every single room. I've tested way too much air in dental offices. So the dentists who are aware have had commercial grade air scrubbing for years. So it's like, there's only 2 reasons you're not aware or you don't care. So I'm like, now we handled the awareness. Look what's in your air. Oh shit. Now you get to decide if you care or not. I think dentists are 5 times more likely than the general population to develop adult onset asthma.
Interesting.
And everybody goes to the dentist. Actually, fun fact, the dentist comes here now.
Oh,
It's an employee perk.
one of my son was just asked, we went to the dentist yesterday and he was just asking if there's ever dentists that come to the house. And I said no. So you'll have to look me up
Maybe we'll
with
turn
that.
it into a bigger thing where we like we'll have Jaspr and friends
Yeah.
and we'll like get everybody to come here that day. We set them up in the basement. There's, lots of air scrubbing here in our own environment where there's not other sick people. Cause like what a play, it only takes one day at a bad hotel room or one day at a dental office to get like really sick.
Oh, yeah.
And all it would take from a dentist is a $999 investment once ever, for $7,000, they're good. And then a lot of hygienists are sick all the time. They just don't know. So yeah, I think as much as possible, just kind of like shining the light on the issue for people. And I think we'll start to do more stuff where we do like man on the street style videos where I go into the dental office and like take a sample of the air and run it. But there's already so much data. Like people know dentists are one area of doctors who are very air aware because they get taught about bioaerosols in dental school. But even still, most of them don't invest in air filtration. So yeah, anybody who has a dentist that doesn't have significant air filters running in every room, I would not recommend going back there.
I'm going to have to check for that next time I go to the dentist. You mentioned you can test your indoor air quality. Is this something that a professional would do, or can an individual do that in their own home?
It's a great question. So I used to do air quality testing and consulting. There's 2 things primarily we were testing for. One was mold and one was air quality, which meant like particulate and VOCs. Everybody has mold. And the crazy thing is people test for mold. If I test your home at 8 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m., we will have wildly different results all 3 times. So I don't know how much this is true for blood work. I've always had a suspicion that it really mattered though. Like what you ate, what you drank, what you slept. Like I always had a suspicion that like we're getting these blood tests, but like I always suspected that it varies a lot based on my current state. The same is massively true for your air. I actually tested air 90 minutes apart in Lakeway near you. And it was like 5x the count, 90 minutes apart. The wind shifted, the wind blew, the vents kick on, like it's massively different. So the best test for mold typically is your nose. Like the nose knows. If it smells musty and moldy, it's typically moldy. If that's the case, you should go and basically check every point of potential water. So, looking under the sinks, looking in the toilet bowls, looking in the bathrooms, things like that. I've tested like collectively as a company, we tested probably 5,000 homes. I've tested many hundreds of homes. And once you've done 50, 60, the lab test is just a waste. I know every time within 20 seconds of being in a home, if it's moldy or not. The lab test is just telling us what we already know. And everybody had some amount of mold anyway. It varies in species and severity, but like, so what? You still have to go find it. Check your attic, check your crawl space, check your foundation. Like the visual inspection and smelling is the best test you can do. What I do like though is actually, I really like a carbon dioxide tester. I like one by a company called Aranet, ARANET4. It's about $150 on Amazon. And that's checking for carbon dioxide. So that's going to tell you when you want to open your windows and open your doors and get fresh air. Also, I like another brand called Aware, AWAIR, the model called the Element. It's also about $150. Putting one of those in like your bedroom and in your kitchen. What's cool about those is it gives you the historical on like a line graph, like a stock. So you can see how your air quality looks over the past month. And you'll notice your air is usually fine. But when you cook, when you clean, when it's a bad air day, if someone does incense, if someone vaped and then walk in your home, you have a spike. So you're like your air is generally okay. And then throughout the day or the week, it has these spike moments. And it can take days for that to be out of your air. Why? Because it gets into your carpet, your bedding, your couches, etc. Then when someone is scrubbing their air, all of a sudden you see a spike come up, Jaspers turn on and it's gone in like 2, 3, 5 minutes. Like when you're cooking, for example, or when you're using sprays or chemicals. So I do like a couple air monitors in the home, one in a bedroom, one in a common area. They're $150 each. It's like setting up a Ring camera. You can do it yourself. The testing, I mean, depending on your specific situation, but personally, like I have a hard time recommending everyone pays a lot of money for air testing or water testing. I felt horrible when I would charge people $1,500 as the professional to go in and test their air, and all roads led to you need to filter your air. And if we test your water, all roads lead to, like, there's no good tap water and there's no good general indoor air. Indoor air on average is 5 to 10 times dirtier than outdoor air. So we do a particle count every time we go to people's homes. The indoor air is almost always bad. So it's like you could spend $1,500 or $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 on testing your air. But for that price, you could just get air filters. You know, you could test your water. Yeah, it's going to have a lot of chlorine and some other chemicals. So maybe just spend the money on filtering your water. Often people spend the money in the diagnostics and then they have no budget for the solutions.
You make such a you make such a good point there. When I started working with people with autoimmunity and Hashimoto's chronic fatigue syndrome, I was doing a lot of lab testing with them. And sometimes those labs, the functional medicine labs, are like $500, $1,000, $2,000. They take, effort to do them. So you have to plan a day when you're going to do the tests, and then takes 4 to 6 weeks to get the results back. And before you know it, you're in this process for 3 to 6 months and you're still not feeling better. And I've gotten so many test results back with people. They have toxins in their system, right? And they have all of these different imbalances, where I got to a point where I was just recommending everybody do like liver support and do sauna to help clear toxins out of their bodies. Because I already knew, like, I'm like, we already know that you have toxins in your system. And we already know if you have a chronic health condition that you should probably filter your air, that you should filter your water, and you need to clean up your personal care routine. Here's a checklist. Because a lot of times, like you said, it's like it could be such a long and expensive process. And then you run out, you're still feeling like crap and you haven't done anything about it for 6 months because you're waiting for some very specific thing. But
It's not like that.
Yeah.
Like once in a while it can be. I would say, like, for me, and like think about the word supplements itself. And like I find that a lot of, I'll just call, like, I don't know if this is accurate, but would naturopathic medicine be considered Eastern? I don't exactly know. Maybe. But like let's just say there's like pharmaceutical, like medicines and drugs. And then there's like naturopathic, more holistic, more supplements.
Integrative, I would say, is maybe a good way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So integrative, but like less drugs and pharma. But to me, as an outsider, it's feeling more and more like drugs in terms of supplements first. Whenever I go to these trade shows, it's all about supplements. And it's like, let's just do a quick blood test and we'll get you your supplement stack. I'm like, I don't know if 27 pills is what I really need right now. The word is supplement. I think it's supposed to be supplementary to your food and to your lifestyle. They're not called primaries, but people are making, majoring in the minors. You're making the supplemental thing the main thing, where you could still be drinking tap water, breathing moldy air, not sauning, never going outside, having dirty carpets, and taking 25 pills. I'm like, okay, I just don't think this is going to get you the result you want, versus like, let's just take care of air, water, food and go for some walks and get some fresh air. See what that does for a couple weeks. And then, start, if you're doing testing, maybe like block and tackle the obvious things first. Like, let's sleep as good as we can, swap out some chemicals, like, because those things are things that within 72 hours, the 80-20 changes can already be made. You could throw out all your harsh chemicals. You could stop wearing your shoes indoors. You could open your windows when you cook, and instantly your environment is going to support you so much more. And I mean, I'm biased because I'm on the air side. So I only see the reviews of, I've been doing all these things for years. And now this was my missing piece. So I get to see it from this side. I'm sure people see it from the other side, but I'm like, it feels frustrating for as many life-changing moments that we see people experiencing all the time, that taking care of air and water isn't like table stakes for someone who's feeling sick.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point. So I came into functional medicine, integrative medicine from being a trained pharmacist, right? So
Right.
very well versed. If somebody's sick, here's a medication, here's a pill for that, here's a pill for that, here's a pill for that. And then when I got into more functional medicine and root cause medicine, I kind of found myself working with clients who were essentially in that same boat, but they traded regular pharmacy for what's called green pharmacy.
Okay. There's the word
Where
I was looking for.
Yeah, it's called green pharmacy because their practitioners would put them on 20 to 30 different supplements. And this person, one person I worked with was drinking 8 cups of coffee a day and having insomnia, anxiety, palpitations.
Ah,
And nobody talked to her about reducing her caffeine intake, right? And then as we dug deeper, like she was colonized with mold and nobody was talking to her about that. Yet they were having her on 20 different supplements. And we ended up essentially working on the caffeine intake and working on getting her off of many supplements, sticking with some magnesium, and then doing some of that cleanup, right? They're foundational things like the air you breathe, the food you eat, the water you drink, like your daily habits. If you're spending time indoors, if you're getting good sleep, if you're filling your life with purposeful relationships. And these are like the foundational checklist. Like if you're not doing these things, like the fanciest, most expensive supplements, and I own a supplement company, Recology, right? And I'm saying this as a supplement company owner, like the best supplements are not going to move the needle very far if you're not doing those foundational things. One thing that I wanted to ask you about is you keep mentioning the word air scrubber, and then
sure.
there's air purifier,
Yes.
there's air filtration. Can you talk us through like what does all that terminology mean?
Sure. I'll start off with air freshener, because people know what those are. No freshening is going down. Air freshener means chemical sprayer. It means it's shooting a bunch of fragrances and chemicals out that are going to hijack your ability to smell and just make you smell that. So that freshens your air.
Not so fresh.
Not so fresh. And that is a more popular category than cleaning your air. Every Uber's got them, hotels got them, bathrooms have them. People are spending more money on covering things up than dealing with the problem. Air purifier versus air scrubber. Fundamentally, they both work the same. There's a filter, there's a fan, air moves through it, it filters air. So they're both air filters. The difference between an air scrubber and an air purifier is typically the scale. So it's like, what's the difference between a pickup truck and a golf cart, or a Honda Civic and a Yukon Denali? Like, they're both cars, like a small sedan. Like think about, large SUV versus small sedan. They're both cars. They're both automotive, vehicles, but one is very small and designed to be efficient and get you around town, and one is designed to be safer and pack more stuff and hold more people. So an air scrubber is the term of what we were using for mold jobs, floods, fires, industrial. So an air scrubber is like an industrial grade air purifier. So it's cleaning the air like 10 or 20 times more than an air purifier. Purifier is like incremental. There's a reason you buy an air purifier at Walmart, Best Buy, Home Depot, Amazon, $100, $200, $300, $400. They purify your air. Maybe they're going to make the air 10 or 20% cleaner. An air scrubber is shooting to make the air 90 to 99% cleaner. So purifier is like incrementally slightly cleaning the air, great for like a dormitory that has dust, to decrease dust slightly, purify it, versus scrubbing it. It'd be like, what is a Brita filter versus like a badass home filter? You can get a $30 water filter or a $3,000 one. They both take stuff out of water, and one does it on a much higher degree, like a much bigger scale. Or a kettle versus a kettle is good for teacup. Water heater is good for your showers and bath, and a pool heater does your whole pool. They all are just elements that warm water, but the scale that they operate in is entirely different. And Jaspr, there's a reason that it's 30 inches tall and made out of steel. It's designed to scrub your air. It's designed to make the air 20 to 25 times cleaner in your bedroom. So 60% of people, probably more now, who buy Jaspers had all kinds of air purifiers before. And my favorite and most common review is I had owned all these different air purifiers before I got the Jaspr air scrubber. And whoa, this is the first one that I know works. I feel it. I see it. It's undeniable. Versus the purifiers, like I bought them, I plugged them in. Sometimes they'd make noise. I never knew if they worked, so I never changed the filter. Almost even 5 years later, almost nobody ever cancels their filter subscription. Nobody wants to buy the filter every 6 months. No one likes to spend the money or invest the money in themselves, but it's undeniable for them. They know how much better they sleep. They know how much better they feel, that they call it, it's one of the laziest ways to be healthy. It doesn't take any willpower whatsoever. So the scrubber is just a very effective air purifier. And I think, once upon a time, an air purifier might have been good enough. If you live in the Amazon or Costa Rica or Vancouver Island in like a rainforest somewhere, you probably don't need to filter your air. Leave your doors, if you're like outside all the time in a ton of fresh air, as long as you don't have humidity problems, you're probably fine. But if you're living in a city or even in a rural environment where there's farms that are being sprayed a lot, the same way you're probably not drinking straight from the hose and drinking pond water, you probably don't want to breathe air that's just, especially indoor air. Where does the rubber from where does the pollution go? Where do all the air in the factory goes? The world is all sharing air, and then it's magnified when it's inside. So I think air purifying was probably okay once upon a time, but now that air keeps getting worse and our homes are built worse and worse, scrubbing our air is what we need to do in order to have a clean environment that is, going to support us.
Thank you. That makes so much sense because I know I started off with getting these like dinky air purifiers that are $50 to $100 at, I don't know, Costco, right? And I've recommended for people when I see that they have elevations and different toxins. And just as I'll be like, you need to invest in a really high quality air purifier. And I'll oftentimes point them to the Jaspr, but some of them are like not getting better. And then I'll check in with them and I'll say, okay, did you actually get the air purifier? They're like, yeah, we got one at Costco instead. But it's like, it's not going to move the needle. So if it takes out 10 to 20% of the toxins in your environment, that's a great start, right? That's better than nothing.
Better than nothing.
But it's not going to really move the needle because you need to get to that 90 to 100% of cleaning of the air. Otherwise, you're still going to have, let's say, 80 mold spores coming your way instead of 100. Like, sure, that's better, but like clinically and your health is like, you're not going to see the difference.
Also, they're typically like cheap little plastic machines.
Yeah.
They're loud. They're ugly. Jaspr on its silent mode right now, the one there's a few of them near us. One of them is like 4 feet from me right now. We can't hear it. The microphones can't pick it up. That's moving more air than a little air purifier on its loudest setting. A lot more. Because like most of these brands that you see at the store, at the Costco and the Best Buys and the Walmart, these brands make hundreds of products. They make everything. They're brands. They don't even make anything. They just put their logo on thousands of things. They have great distribution. They sell them at Walmart and Best Buy and these big stores. They're giant companies. Like Honeywell makes tens of thousands of things. Or do they make anything? Like, is there even a Honeywell factory? And they're a fine company, but they're not specializing in anything. They just like, there's companies that make like, I saw the other day, Philips, they make light bulbs and they make toothbrushes. Like they're giant brands that make everything. Basic. We make one thing, just an air scrubber. We don't make water filters. We don't make diffusers. We don't make multiple different sizes. So arguably it'd be very difficult for them to even understand the problem. And right now, because the market's very uneducated, you go to Amazon, you punch in air purifier, you say extra large room, you say price low. And these companies, very sneaky with their marketing. So you look, it says this filter filters 99.97% of particles. Ooh, that sounds great. This thing covers 1,500 square feet. What do you mean covers? What does covers mean? Does covers means you clean the air 5% or 90%? So what it's very sneaky marketing. So when they tell you that 99.97, that means just the filter in a controlled lab environment. So you could have a Kleenex sized filter, little tiny sheet of paper, that's HEPA, but so it cleans the air, but it's like a space heater. Space heater is great for a closet. You can't heat your whole home with it. It's too small to get the job done. So what most people are using is like teeny tiny space heaters in a large room, and they're not feeling the difference because it's not the right machine for the job. But what's really uncool about it is it's marketed as if it's large room. You know, it says extra large, 1,500 square feet covers this big space. That, first of all, if you go into the fine print, that usually seems like 7-foot ceilings. That assumes it's always on full speed. So when they give you that stat, it's assuming it's on the loudest mode all the time. And then what is covers? It doesn't say it's going to make the air in your room 20 times cleaner. They can't say that because it won't. So that's why we just made a machine, you know, as a guy who was an air quality guy, mold guy, flood guy, fire guy. I'm like, I want a machine that I could remediate a moldy house with. And it would be, you know, my wife really likes design. I do too. So something that is beautiful and effective was kind of table stakes, and no one else was really trying to solve that problem. They're just trying to give people a box to check. I heard 70% of air purifiers sold, the person never changes the filter once. For us, it's 99%. So flipped on its head, 30%, only 30% of the time do people ever change the filter, and that's just once. For us, even 5 years later, high 90% of people are still changing it 5 years later, and nobody changes it unless they are feeling the difference constantly. So yeah, scrubber versus purifier, big difference.
It makes such a huge difference. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. And I really appreciate you explaining to that, because a lot of us want to be smart consumers. And so we will actually take the time to research what is going to move the needle for us. And a lot of the marketing can be very deceiving.
I just tell people, like, I don't really track anything. Like, I don't need a step counter or a sleep counter. Once I stop trusting myself and I outsource my feelings to like a data or a sensor, for me personally, that's just like, it's getting away from trusting myself. And I tell people all the time, like Jaspr versus the other one, I'm like, just buy both if you're unsure. First, just buy the other one if you really want. If you notice it's making your life way better, great. But we both know what's going to happen. You're going to buy the other one. You're going to wonder if it's doing anything. You're going to return it. It's going to be very annoying for you to return it. They're not going to make it easy. Then you're going to try a Jaspr, and within 24 to 48 hours, you're going to be like, whoa, this is making a meaningful difference. And that's why we do almost no marketing. And the customers are the marketing, because they just tell their friends and their family. You know, it's in the school and the teachers tell everybody. I think the best thing to do is just make a product that works. So seems to be working.
Yeah. So in addition to having it in my son's school, I have a few of them in my house, and I put one in the bedroom. I used to have this thing where I would sometimes just wake up in the middle of the night. The air was kind of feeling like stuffy, and I would just have like some coughing going on. And since I put the Jaspr in my room, it's like not happening. I am waking up a little bit with the baby every now and then with
What's your plan for the birth?
Definitely gonna have the baby in that same room with the Jaspr.
Okay, I was just double checking. So for anybody out there in Austin, couple fun Austin perks. Number one, if anybody buys a Jaspr in Austin, we hand deliver it to your home. So you just buy it online normally. We reach out to you, we deliver it, we test the air in your home, we unbox it. If you're unsure, we do 30-day sleep trials. So you could just message us. We'll drop Jaspers off at your home, no credit card or nothing, and let you just borrow Jaspr for a month. We'll usually put 3 or 4 so you can try them in each room. We'll pick them all up. We'll pick up some of them, whatever you want. But the other thing we do in Austin is when people are having babies, we deliver Jaspers to their birthing suites. And that's just a free service we offer. So you're already covered. But if anyone, whether you're having a home birth or a birth in a hospital, I brought Jaspr for my baby's birth at St. David's. And then a few other people have now had Jaspers in there. When we turned Jaspr on in the hospital and test the air in the hospital was horrible.
Interesting.
We got the air in there like 50 times cleaner. And like, I like this saying, your baby's first breath is more important than your baby's first steps. So a baby comes into the world, typically in a hospital, with the dirtiest, most contaminated, infectious air ever. Then baby comes home and goes into this new nursery, painted VOCs, new crib, little poop box beside it. No poop box for you, right? Have we talked about the poop box?
We haven't talked about the poop box. Please share.
All right. So diaper pails are not your friend. We actually found one that's pretty good, but most diaper pails, you pop the diaper in there, people empty them like once or twice a week. You walk in baby's room and it stinks like poop. Rule of thumb: if it smells like poo, it is poo. If it is poo, it's bacteria. So if you look at the airborne bacteria levels of most nurseries, they're off the chart. So here's little baby, no, not really much immune system yet. Babies can breathe 60 to 100,000 times a day, very high respiratory rate, come home, and they're being bothered by mold, VOCs, and poop. So Jaspr is helpful, but it's not the full solution. The best thing is those diapers go outside immediately. And most of those diaper pail products, if they were actually airtight, you wouldn't smell poo. We actually found one. It was $70 on Amazon. We'll give you the link. It's worth sharing. It works more like a trash chute in a building, and it's so small that it has to be emptied every day. But it like opens, you put the diaper in, and then it like closes. So you're never open to the pit. Like you're never open to all the diapers. And we take it out every day, and that stays in a bathroom. And yes, we have Jaspers. But like just talk about air awareness. You have a baby, your first kid, the person you might love most in the world, that you're definitely most concerned about its health, and you have it sleeping in a infested bacteria room 18 hours a day with no awareness. So that's why this whole air thing is pure awareness, or nobody would have their babies sleeping in a freshly painted room with poop.
I'm just horrified because I didn't even think about that with my first son. We had the diaper pail like right next to the crib, right?
Perfect.
And it was like literally like poop particles floating around. So I am horrified, and we didn't even have like a good air purifier in his room. So thank you for that. I'm like, wow.
So any bursts in Austin, we got you covered.
Awesome. Well, I will definitely keep you posted. So you actually travel with Jaspers with them in your car whenever you go to get like a procedure.
Oh yeah, like if I have like a massage therapist I like going to, first time I go, I don't bring it. Second time, if I like them enough that I'll keep going, I bring it and I just gift it and I say like, let's just keep this here. That way it'll be good for you, it'll be good for me, it'll be good for all your guests. Here's how you keep it on fan speed 2, fan speed 3. Yeah, anywhere where I go regularly has Jaspers there.
Interesting.
When I travel, I ship it to the hotel. Some airlines let me fly with it for free as a medical device.
Huh.
One doesn't let me. I'm like, are you kidding? Especially I remember one airline didn't. And I'm like, it was during the LA wildfires. I'm like, I could be an asthmatic who's sick, who's going to a wildfire zone, and my golf clubs would be free, but not my air scrubber. Like, but most airlines let you take it.
That's actually really great advice for somebody that has asthma, eczema, allergies, breathing issues, or multiple chemical sensitivities. Because I would have never thought of that. To actually, you can bring an air purifier with you, and you can perhaps get a doctor's. Actually, you could bring an air scrubber with you, and you can get a doctor's note.
If you're in Miami, by the way, there's a hotel called the Carillon Hotel, Carillon, and they have 150 Jaspers there, one in every single room, one in all 28 treatment rooms, and in all the common areas. We got the air there like 30 times cleaner, building wide. This was a case study we did to see how clean we could get the air in a hotel and how much better everybody's sleep would be, and it's having a huge effect.
Interesting. You've done a lot of cool case studies. I think you published recently something about snoring and sleep divorces.
Hey, that was yesterday. Nice, you got that. Cool. Yeah, sleep divorce. This is a big thing. A lot of couples aren't sharing a room anymore, and a lot of the time it's because one of them was snoring.
Husband usually.
Also, I think husbands are less embarrassed, or like just societally, like women don't necessarily love to talk about their snoring problems. It is usually husband though. But yeah, very often they put the Jaspr in the room and the snoring is gone. Or someone who's tracking their snoring went from 2.5 hours a night to 9 minutes a night. Now, for a lot of people, there's a lot of other factors to what may have caused it, but a lot of the time, it could be the air. I think it's wild that people need CPAP machines. So they need literally a machine to pump the air down their throat so they can breathe. And at the same time, filtering their air is not a part of the equation. So we've had now a couple testimonials from people who got rid of their CPAP machines.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just a couple. That's not something I'm saying to replace it. But if you need a machine to help yourself breathe, the average bedroom we test has about 1 million particles floating around. Mold, bacteria, VOCs, rubber from your tires, hair, insect parts, all of it. You'd think if there was any respiratory issues, let's just go to breathing super clean air would be like table stakes. Especially if you have a CPAP machine, the filter is tiny. It's just made for like giant fur or like big things not to like shoot into your throat. But there's basically no air filtration. I think anyone who needs a CPAP machine should also want really clean air in that bedroom. It's just an awareness thing. But yeah, we do a lot of these little fun studies and tests and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense. It's like it's not going to hurt. And in some cases, it can really make the situation significantly better. I would love for everybody with autoimmunity, with chronic health conditions, asthma, allergies, anybody that's really trying to live a healthier life to have access to a high quality air scrubber like Jaspr in their homes, at least in their bedrooms, right?
And I always make sure to tell people, you can actually make a pretty good DIY one for about $150 at Home Depot in a couple hours. That will clean the air almost as good as Jaspr. What I don't like to see people do is go to a store, think they're buying something that works and buying a little plastic piece of junk with no service and no support, and that doesn't work. So if Jasper is expensive or you don't value the aesthetic and the support and the lifetime warranty, maybe some people don't. I built Jasper really for myself. What would a mold guy who wants clean air at home do? He would build Jaspr. But you can make a pretty good DIY one. So if you Google Corsi Rosenthal box, CORSI Rosenthal box, or just DIY air purifier, there's a few good designs out there. But basically you take like a box fan and a few filters and you tape them all together, and it makes a really good air cleaning machine. The downsides, a little bit loud, very ugly, but at least it cleans the air really well. So if it's just in your bedroom for white noise, or you live in LA and you want to just run it during wildfire season, this is pretty reasonable thing to do. Or, you're in a dorm, you're in an apartment, you just don't have the budget for Jaspr. I would wait for $150, half a day project, some duct tape, some fans and some filters. You're going to have a really effective solution. So I'd much rather see people do that and have something that works. I like when there's different cars, there's different homes. So Jaspr is for someone who wants turnkey. They want the smart sensors, they want the effectiveness, they want the steel, they want the lifetime warranty, they want the support. They're just like, make my life easy. They want the filter to show up and they just change it in 20 seconds. Cool. We're here for that. But there's a good DIY option for somebody who doesn't want to spend the money, invest the money on the aesthetics and the extras, but still wants clean air. DIY is the way to go.
I have to say the filter is gorgeous. So I have it in my living room, and it's not like one of those things that I like try to cover up or shove in the corner. It like really works with a lot of different aesthetics.
Mhm.
And we've actually used the customer service. My son's classroom, they were doing a lot of construction and there was some dust on the sensor. And so it wasn't quite dialing in correctly. And the team was awesome. They got back to me within like 15 minutes and they're like, this is what you need to do. And we were able to like take care of it ourselves versus
And if not,
like,
we would have replaced it the next day.
yeah. And they were like, if this is an issue, we're going to send you something brand new tomorrow if it's a problem. And we were able to like figure it out. And I'm not a very, what's the word? I'm not like a DIY fixer type of person.
Me neither. At all.
Yeah, but it was easy enough for me to figure it out. It was like,
Nice.
okay, just swipe this up. And I was like, amazing. And so I've had such an incredible
Thank you.
experience with Jaspr air scrubbers, like in my home, at my son's school. I'm recommending them to a lot of my family and friends. Like everybody's going to be getting gifts for Christmas and I know what they are. It makes it easier. So if you have somebody in your life that could benefit from clean air, I highly recommend that you check them out.
And anyone whose public schools have been very difficult to work with. But if you have a child who's in a private school, doesn't matter what kind, but they're just easier to work with, we will donate Jaspers to your kid's school. If they're not for profits, we give them filters for free also. If it's a for-profit school, we will still give you the Jaspr for free, and then we'll give you heavily discounted filters. But if you have a kid in school, we'll donate them not just for your kid's class, we'll donate them to all of the classrooms. So that's kind of our, I think the most important, I want the Jaspers to be in a place where they're the most impactful, and the most impactful place that I know to put them in is in a classroom, because you could have 10 or 20 people benefiting from that clean air all day, every day. So like literally, like we get these emails every day. If you heard us, please reach out and we'll make it happen for you guys.
So what inspired you to start your own school?
All right. So the school, what inspired me was twofold. Number one, when my daughter Aria was 2.5, she's 5 now, went to school, she was getting sick all the time. And I just saw how the school was, I was going to say not designed to be healthy, but it was almost like they designed it to make her as sick as possible. From the lighting to the school not breathing, to the chemicals, to no air filtration. It was almost like if you said, how do I invent a school to make kids as sick as frequently as possible? They basically checked all the boxes. That was frustrating. Then we got her into a new school. We got Jaspr's into that school, and she basically stopped getting sick overnight. And then my next daughter, Adele, she started in a school with air filtration and basically never gets sick. So there was a study in Finland done a couple years ago, at this point, I think, where they put air purifiers, not even great scrubbers, they put air purifiers in 50% of classes and in different schools, and they had a 30% absentee drop in students and teachers.
Wow.
So
30%.
30% with medium air filtration right away. Duh. Like, it's like, imagine having a school that had no sinks to wash your hands, and then they added sinks and soap, and all of a sudden people stopped getting sick, like way less. Like, you wouldn't be that surprised, because you want to wash your surfaces, you want to wash your hands, and you need to scrub your air. Like anytime when I was doing restoration, mold, floods, fires, it was always a two-pronged approach. We need to clean the surfaces and clean the air simultaneously. If you only clean the surfaces, the building would still be contaminated. Somehow this hasn't like made its way over to like conventional hygiene where people are mopping and washing floors and using chemicals to scrub their windows. But the air is like, if you think about a fishbowl or a swimming pool, you don't go into the pool and scrub the walls of the pool with a sponge. You get a water filter and a pump to move the water and filter the water. With the fish tank, right? You filter the water. With our homes, it's the air that we really need to be cleaning. A lot more than the surfaces won't make us sick. The only time the surfaces typically are going to make us sick, like, you know, if you smell garbage in the house, it's because that garbage is off-gassing into your air. So with the school, the reason that we're doing this is because we tried a number of different schools, and they were either, I'll just call them in the category of nature school, great community, great nature, lots of time outside. Amazing, actually, especially for young kids. Really great. But they didn't teach them really anything. They didn't really learn how to do any basic math. They didn't learn how to read. Rachel, my wife, started to teach Aria how to read. In 15 or 20 minutes, a couple times a week, she very quickly was learning how to read. It's like, why aren't they doing that? And now that she reads, she loves reading. She can order off menus. She reads signs. The whole way she interacts with the world is much. She sits beside me on the computer and can actually see what I'm working on. She reads my calendar to see what I'm doing in a day when she's not there. So it's really broadened her perspective and experience with life, being able to read and being able to do math and count and think. It's been very helpful. Then there's other types of schools that were very academically rigorous and like no nature or community. So we couldn't really find a good balance. But a big driver for me was how sick kids are getting in school and how normalized that they're making it, that your kid should just be always sick all the time. You know, both of us experienced it. Then I saw that study in Finland. I'm like, this is just the push that I need to want to start this. Also, I'm 35 now. Since I met Rachel when I was 19, we were making curriculums for fun. So we have 16-year-old curriculums and mind maps and life skills that we were thinking about, like what does a child need to learn? And a lot of it was just like, they're going to learn it in life. Some of it was going to be from us. And a lot of it was going to be, you know, school is where they're spending most of their waking hours. So it makes sense that that is a really great place to grow and to learn and to experience things. And the fact that these environments, like if you can dial in your between your bedroom and your workplace, or your bedroom and for a kid, a school, that's like 2/3 of your life. If you could just dial in the classroom in the bedroom or the bedroom in the office and get your work and sleep environments dialed in, that's going to move the needle a lot. Then the other third is like miscellaneous, other. Maybe you're in your living room, maybe you're outside going for walks, going to restaurants. Can't do so much about that. But if you can dial in your working, your school, your sleep, moves the needle. And I got inspired by that study in Finland. So we wanted to build a school that was Montessori inspired, but more collaborative, more entrepreneurial in nature, and just a really healthy environment. So my role is the chief wellness officer. So I'm responsible for making sure air filtration, water filtration, circadian rhythm lights, screened in porches. So there's no screens in the school. Will we bring them in at later ages? Maybe. Right now the school is just 3 to 9. They have enough screen time at home. So the only screens we have will be on our screened in porches. But fresh air, good lighting, clean water. Like, I think the environment just being a healthy place, and then incredibly skilled, well-paid teachers that have great philosophies and great structures. You know, we're not here. And the school is called Kindling Academy. Why Kindling? Because I believe every child has a spark within, and they just need a little bit of well-placed kindling and a little bit of oxygen. It's not like we're going to shape your child or craft your child or architect or engineer them. I think just giving them an environment to be around other kids in a supportive way. And then a lot of community stuff. So we have like a 20-person sauna that we're going to put at the school, and some cold plunges. So when parents pick up and drop off their kids, there's like community wellness for the families. So we're not just accepting a child into the school. It's really accepting that family as a community. And like you said yourself, like with longevity and health and all that, community is one of the biggest parts. And when you're a kid in school, you have friendship built in. The most convenient people to be friends with in the adult phase of life is your friends, your kids' friends' parents.
Right.
You can hang out with them. They hang out with their kids. And one of the schools we went to, they weren't great at teaching, but they were amazing at community. And it was awesome. We almost stayed despite of all the other things. So we really view it as the families joining the school, as opposed to just the kid. And people have to want to be able, you know, go on a camping trip once or twice a year, and just like being, you know, teaching something once a month and collaborating with the school. People who want to be a part of their kids' lives and have the community a part of their life. If not, there's lots of other great schools.
I love it. What a beautiful vision. And it combines all the different elements of keeping kids healthy, teaching them, and having that beautiful community.
Stay tuned. It's going to be awesome. We open next August. So at kindling.academy, we got Instagram, we got a website. If you want to join the waiting list, feel free, or we're going to open source every single thing we do. So our profit and loss statement, all our financials will be transparent. What we pay the teachers, how much does it cost to renovate, the air filters, the water filters, the non-toxic chemicals we use, everything's going to be open source. So if anyone has a school or their kids go to a school and they want to just give them like, and we're going to be publishing all of our absentee rates, the runny noses, the coughs against state averages. And if we can get the big vision is this, if we can get the absentee rates down by 30, 40, 50%, public schools are funded by attendance. So we want to align the incentives where public schools, it will become a no-brainer for them to invest into healthier buildings for their kids. So the goal is to make that the healthiest school in Austin, but really the healthiest kids in America, and do it in such an undeniable way that people cannot help but take note and optimize their schools.
And who would have thought that airborne disease would dissipate in higher quality air, right? Like, who would have thought that air scrubbers could get rid of so many cases of airborne disease?
What a surprise.
What a shock, right?
Yeah, nuts.
It's so generous of you. And thank you for donating to my son's school and a few of my mom friends' schools. Everybody's like, this has made such a big difference. It's not just me and my son's friends and teachers, but also like we're getting these stories from all over the place. So I was so excited to bring you on the podcast to share about your expertise on air quality.
I was excited to be here. I don't know what day this comes out, but it would be nice if we gave your audience like a big discount code or something.
Let's do it.
What's a code that you have used in the past, or a simple one?
We can use Isabella, Izabella.
Okay, so that's the code, Isabella. Today, the day that this comes out, for the next 2 weeks, code Isabella will be $300 off.
Wow, thank you so much.
For 2 weeks. And then after that, it'll still be $200 off forever. We'll just leave the code up forever. But I know, even when it's health purchases, I take action when there's deals on things, and you don't have to wait till Black Friday. So if somebody wants to invest in clean air for their bedroom, for their home, code Isabella will be $300 off for 2 weeks from the day that this comes out, and $200 off after that. And yeah, with the lifetime warranty, if Jaspr ever breaks, we ship you a brand new one. You take the new one out of the box. You put the old one in the box. We send you a prepaid shipping label, and we cover the shipping both ways. So we call it the last air scrubber you'll ever need to buy. And also, if it's not a no-brainer for you at home, keep the box for the first month. We would take it back. Doesn't happen often, but if it does, we want this to be a no-risk investment for you. So either you buy it and it's like life-changing for your family and it's the best deal you've ever got and you want to buy more. Or, and by the way, if you bought one with code Isabella and then you reach out a month or two later and you're like, I want 2 more, we will honor that same $300 off. So do not feel pressured to buy more than one. If you just put one in your bedroom and you put it on fan speed 3 and you put it on dark mode, the life-changing sleep will happen. If you cook a lot, you probably also want to put one in your common area in your living room somewhere on smart mode so it can adapt to the cooking. And tell your friends.
Thank you so much. That's so generous of you. I know it's made a really big difference in my life, and you're making such a huge difference in so many people's lives by cleaning up their air.
Couldn't do it without you. Otherwise, I'd just be shouting from the rooftops into the void. So thank you.
My pleasure.